I will now call the May 17th, 2024 meeting of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee to order at 1:01 p.m. As expected, our committee covers topics related to sustainable initiatives and the economic vitality of our great city. Note that no formal votes or decisions about city programs, policies, or budgets will happen here. Our role is to explore various topics with staff and other stakeholders and community members, and to make recommendations to our council colleagues. We want this process to be transparent, inclusive, and easy for you to be a part of whenever and wherever you choose to be. And you can share your thoughts with us by filling out a comment card about any item on a meeting agenda, or by reaching out to us directly with any other thoughts, questions, or ideas. The link to the comment cards can be found on our committee webpage at tempe.gov/SEV. You'll find contact information for committee members and staff that are there for non-agendized questions as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Chin. The next item on our agenda is item number 2, review and approval of meeting minutes from the April meeting of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee. If there are no objections, I move that we approve the minutes from the April 19th, 2024 meeting as written.
I have no objections, and I second that motion. So the April 2024 minutes are unanimously approved. The next item on our agenda is item 3A, public comments. This committee welcomes public comment. According to Arizona open meeting law, the committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under public comment that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect. Ty, do we have any comment cards or requests to speak for this meeting?
There are no comment cards submitted, Councilmember Chin and Vice Mayor Adams.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is item 4A, current items and updates, and we'll begin with item 4A1, a fantastic presentation on our new community tree steward program titled Growing Together, and urban forester Richard Adkins from Community Services and Maddie Mercer from our Sustainability and Resilience Office will be presenting to us virtually today. Welcome. Are they in the queue and on?
Richard is on with us. Maddie?
Why aren't they here?
They're virtual.
I'm here. I can start. Maddie, are you ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Maddie, you're on mute. Maddie?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So sorry having some technical difficulties and audio issues over here, but thank you so much for your time today, Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Tin. My name is Maddie Mercer. I am the Neighborhood Resilience Coordinator in the Sustainability and Resilience Office within Transportation and Sustainability. And I'm here with Richard Adkins, our urban forester, to present a new initiative, a joint initiative between Sustainability and Community Services called Growing Together, which is focused on expanding our tree canopy and promoting resilience to extreme heat through some workforce development programs.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Chin. Richard Atkins, Urban Forester for the City of Tempe. Nice to see you again. Appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak to you today and share with the committee some exciting details of our new Growing Together project, which, as Maddie said, is a tree stewardship as well as workforce development training program. I'm really excited to share this overview with you today. We welcome your questions and thoughts throughout. So as with any type of city project or program, we do try to tie the activities into council priority performance measures. Our Growing Together project is, of course, no different. We're focusing on the tree and shade canopy, community carbon neutrality, working on poverty rate with the underserved communities that we'll be working in, as well as public health and well-being, because as you all know, the benefits and values of trees are not just on single property, but are community-wide. Next slide, please.
And in addition to the project's alignment with our performance measures, we've also been driven by the plans that have already been accepted by council that are guiding this work. So the Climate Action Plan update, which was adopted by council in 2022, outlined strategies for enhancing community resilience and addressing extreme heat. And this project, Growing Together, aligns really closely with the strategies outlined in the Neighborhoods Agenda and the Climate Action Agenda, which talks about focusing on priority areas, the hottest areas of the city, to start working in first so that we can ensure that our most vulnerable residents are protected and strengthened.
And of course, it supports the Urban Forestry Master Plan by advancing, shade canopy and awareness and growth on private property to benefit Tempe community as a whole. Because as you're aware, the city only maintains a very small portion of the property within the city boundaries. So with this program, we'll be expanding more onto the private properties.
So as an overview of the project, this is a new 3-year, $1.6 million initiative that's funded jointly by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Forest Service and the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management. The focus areas of this project are shown here in the chart on the right-hand side. We're working in Northeast Tempe as our first area and Southwest Tempe in the town of Guadalupe as our second project area. And these zones were identified through the White House's Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, CJUST. So these areas within Tempe are some of our most socioeconomically vulnerable to climate change and extreme heat. And these areas are also our hottest areas with some of the lowest canopy coverage in the city, making them a prime spot to begin this work.
So, of course, the overarching goals of the program, we're looking to expand our shade and tree canopy on Tempe's urban forest onto the private property, which is helping us to create some more equitable urban cooling and resilience throughout the city through the development of a little bit more of a workforce opportunities with some on-the-ground training, scholarship development for some of the neighborhood residents. And this is all going to work to help us build capacity for green infrastructure installation and maintenance, not only through training of neighborhood residents, but also some temporary staff positions that we'll be working with to help within the school districts. And all of this just kind of works together to bring different connections and initiatives of city departments as well as neighborhoods together to just, demonstrate the effectiveness of how interrelated all of these activities are as we're looking towards increasing the standard of life and sustainability here in the city.
So as Richard mentioned, this work is really focused on collaborations and building partnerships both inside and outside of the city. And so on this slide, we have our list of partners for this work, which include the City of Tempe, our departments, the town of Guadalupe, Rail CDC, Unlimited Potential, ASU. The federal funding is coming through a joint proposal with ASU and several other municipalities. And we're also partnering with the school districts for a school greening piece, as Richard mentioned. But I really want to highlight on this slide that this is a project based in the neighborhoods and will involve working directly with residents to promote greening within the areas that they live. This isn't a top-down Richard and Maddie project, but this is a community project where we want to work with people who have the best ideas and knowledge of where they live so that we can help make it better for them, with them, and for them. Next slide.
So with that, there are three main components of this program, and this is just a brief review, and we'll go into a little more detail about each of these. The first is the Community Tree Stewards Program. This is a neighborhood-based program with community members being trained to serve and provide information within their neighborhood on learning to grow, plant, and care for trees. The stewards will have supplies and information to work with, as well as to share with their neighbors. And additional training and educational opportunities will be available to advance their skills and knowledge. Now, the second component is the School Greening, Grounds, and Maintenance Program, is where the city is looking to provide additional capacity to school district staff for tree planting as well as maintenance activities. There will be 3 positions here, and they're going to work alongside the school district staff to expand capacity, exchange information, learn, and to help protect the city's assets.
Richard, this
And
is,
then-
could I interrupt for a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Jennifer.
Yes, please.
I just, when you talk about, can you explain more about the Community Tree Stewards Program, Pay Tempe Residents to Grow Plan? Can you expand on that? Because I have my Trees for Tempe program, and I know that is attached to this. So could you please go on about that, please?
Okay, Vice
That's
Mayor
actually-
Adams, if I may, the next slide is going to go into a lot more detail about that.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, we can talk about it now, but if you
have the next slide.
we'll bring it.
Okay,
Yes.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. No, and that's a good point. And like I said, this is just a brief overview of the 3, and then we'll go into detail on each of the 3 a little bit more.
Sure.
So the last part of this is the Food Forest Pilot Project that we're looking to establish 2 demonstration areas within the community. And this includes both the design, the installation, the maintenance, as well as any educational programming on these sites, so that the ideas that we're putting forth in the food forest can be replicated on private properties and people's homes. So just helping to build on resilience and sustainability. So with the next slides going through, Maddie's going to take you into the Community Tree Steward Program a little bit more and talk a little bit more in depth about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a perfect segue, Vice Mayor Adams. So with the Tree Stewards Program, like I said, this is a really resident-driven project. And so we'll be paying residents to learn not just how to grow, plant, and care for trees in the neighborhoods where they live, but also working with them on how to do community outreach and engagement so that they can be our community organizer partners on the ground and help us to make sure that the trees are placed not just where they should be environmentally, but where they make the most impact socially. And so this program will have 6 cohorts of 10 residents, so 60 participants total. It will be a 3-month-long program where residents will get to have some classroom time where they learn some of the technical aspects of tree care and maintenance, but they won't be spending all their time in the classroom. It's really meant to be an experiential, on-the-ground learning program. And so a lot of their time will actually be spent out in the field, in their neighborhoods, talking to their neighbors, learning about how to grow trees and how to maintain them by doing site walks and neighborhood walks to see where are some trees that are doing well, where are some that might need some help, and really working together to plan not just where certain trees can go on individual properties, but as a community where they most needed. And so during this time, they'll be working with their neighborhoods to do additional outreach and helping to build our programs out, working in a community nursery to build the plant material that they'll be planting. And at the end of the program, we want to make sure that this isn't just a 3-month experience and then over, but we've built in additional funding and support for participants who are eager to learn more and gain additional certification and training so that they can continue on and serve their neighborhoods in this capacity. Next slide. And so a little more information about the program. This part of the project will also involve hiring some temporary staff roles. So this will include a full-time and 2 part-time staff. And we're hoping that these part-time staff can be residents from the 2 project areas because they'll have the best knowledge and lived experience of what it's like to live in that neighborhood, know who their neighbors are, and just be our point of contact so that we can make this a process of building trust and relationships and have that resident driven piece. And so in addition to having these staff and the scholarship funding for the neighborhoods, the staff will have some scholarship and training opportunities as well. And then the larger project presents a lot of opportunities for growth at the city level, because as part of our partnership with ASU, we're working with other municipalities in the region that are building their own tree steward programs. And we can have opportunities to learn from each other and exchange best practices so that we can refine and shape this program over time.
Okay, so the second portion of this program is the school greening and grounds maintenance. As you know, we have been planting a lot of trees, we being the city, at both the high school and the elementary school districts throughout Tempe over the past 3 years. It's become quite apparent that we're kind of going beyond the capacity of their grounds maintenance staff to kind of keep these trees growing healthy. So this part of the program is looking at providing 3 staff positions that will come out of the city that will work side by side with school district staff. I mean, currently the elementary school district staff, TD3, they have 21 properties that they oversee, and they only have 4 maintenance positions for everything. So by adding these 3 positions that will be just focused on the tree care health, I think we'll be able to, provide some additional training, some additional support, build on our past as well as some future investments, accountability for our donors, as well as just help to expand the capacity for maintaining trees on our school grounds. Next slide, please.
And on this slide, we have the schools that will be eligible for additional capacity support through the School Greening and Grounds program. So these are the schools that serve the target neighborhoods that are the focus areas of this grant. And these are really important sites for building community resilience. So we want to make sure that we're not just working on private property with residential homes and businesses, public property on city land, but working too with the schools to really build corridors of cooling and shade so that we can help people move around their community and build resilience through that increased connectivity. Next slide. Right, and then the final component of this project is the food forest piece. And so this builds on the Grow Local Tempe project that I've presented on in the past, but it's focused really on building additional capacity and interests around urban agriculture as a tool for addressing food insecurity in Northeast Tempe. And so this process involved a lot of community outreach and iterative conversations around what kind of interventions Tempe residents wanted to see when it comes to urban agriculture. And 2 of the project sites, people were really, really interested with the food forest model. And so with this Growing Together project, we have funding to actually build out those sites. And that will involve not just the installation of the project, but also activating them through programming and training so that they can be those demonstration educational sites that will help expand this model and help more people to grow food and create shade at the same time.
So as you can see, we've have a lot of activities wrapped up into this program to expand over the next 3 years. And I'm sure you're kind of wondering, how in the world are we going to get all this done? So just a quick timeline of what we're looking at here. All of our grant paperwork was finalized in March, and we started in April meeting with all of our partners. We worked on our job descriptions for the positions we're going to hire and looking at the general organization of how it's going to flow between the departments, our partners, and our funders over the next 3 years. Then in May and July, we're looking at hiring our staffing. We're on our curriculum development for our training program and getting those trainers all in place. And then, of course, buying all the tools and the supplies we're going to be needing over the next couple of years. Then we're starting with August through September are the recruitment of our first cohort of community tree stewards to start building that capacity up, and as well as with the beginning of the school year, we should have our maintenance staff available to start the school year alongside of the school district staff. So coming into September, the first cohort training begins, And that's going to go, as Maddie explained, over the next few months. And we hope to have our completed food forest designs together by that time in September. Finishing in November with the first cohort training. So we'll evaluate how that went. We'll end with a celebratory tree planting in that neighborhood and community. And then we're going to repeat that on kind of a spring fall schedule throughout the 6 cohorts for, the next 3 years, all knowing that the food forest is likely to start putting that in the ground in the beginning of 25, and all of the technicians will be working with the school district will just be ongoing throughout that time. So then just finally, just as I said, a brief overview of what this program entails. There's been a lot going to put into this, and we're really looking forward to getting this on the ground. It's shaping up well, and welcome any comments or suggestions you might have at this time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Thank you, Councilmember Chin. This is a very important program to me. It has been for quite some time. That's why I have my Trees for Tempe. And I just want to know, is there a website that we can use to promote this program up and running?
So there isn't a website yet, but we are in the process of development, and I will follow up with you as soon as we have a final version that we can share through Trees for Tempe.
What is our expected timeline on the website?
I think it should be finalized by early June.
Okay, it's just a high priority for us. And so I just, if we can do anything to help move that ahead, that would be great. So thank you, and thank you for the presentation. It was very thorough, and I really appreciate it. And I look forward to having more trees out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Maddie, I'm going to follow up on the Vice Mayor's question about timeline and when we're ready to announce. Why don't you bring it back here and we'll include it in our announcements for this committee meeting? Would that work for you, Vice Mayor?
That's a great idea.
Would that be okay, Maddie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I have one question. The cohorts of tree stewards, early in the presentation, you identified the neighborhoods, several in the North Tempe area. Is that where the cohorts will be, where we're going to offer that program, or will they be in other areas of Tempe as well?
So for this project, the cohorts will be filled with residents from both the Northeast and Southwest Guadalupe areas. So we hope to have 5 participants from each area in each cohort.
Great, thank you.
So I know, I saw on the slide that we were going to pay $20 an hour. Now, who would that go to? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So that will go directly to the residents who are participating in the Tree Stewards cohorts. So those will be those 10 folks each session, each 3-month session. So they'll get the $20 an hour for that 3-month period. And then again, all of the residents will be identified from that project area so that we can make sure we're investing in the residents in the neighborhoods where they live.
I think that's a great idea because program is so critical to our sustainability, and I really like it that we're going to pay people to plant trees. As you know, trees produce 10 degrees lower temperatures than regular without trees. So please promote that as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And that benefit that you just mentioned, we're actually doing some environmental monitoring as part of the project too, so that we can get some baseline estimates of what the temperatures are like before and after we do all of this tree planting and care work. So when we have an update after the first few cohorts, we can also report out on that environmental data.
That'd be great. And do we know what that timeline will be?
So we're going to begin monitoring the environmental data, putting in the sensors this summer. And so we'll be setting up our baseline now before we're planting any trees. So I think in terms of comparing impact, we should have a little better idea by next summer after we've gone through the 2 cohorts. But of course, it'll take time for the trees to grow and mature. So it may take a little longer than that to have the full results of our work.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any more questions, comments? All right, thank you. All right, thank you for the presentations, Richard and Maddie. We'll now move on to
Thank you.
item. We'll now move on to item 4A2, an update on the economic impact of special events in Tempe. For this presentation, we welcome the all-star team of our own Community Services Department in conjunction with the Downtown Tempe Authority and Tempe Tourism. The all-star cast. So you guys are doing it in 3 separate ones? Yes. Okay.
Well, not to crowd the
Got it. Too much all at once. I get it.
You bring us all up here and. I don't know
Right.
what happens.
Well, it's really good to see you guys.
We've got our performance measures, which are linked to our strategic priorities. With that, we really want to focus in here today on the ones that we feel special events are most closely tied to, and that's quality of life, the value of special events, as well as the financial stability and vitality, strengthening those relationships as well as between our visitors, our community, and the merchants and the businesses of Tempe. So today, you're not going to hear me talk the entire time. That is a blessing. Just ask my wife. We're going to get right into just an overview here, and I'm going to turn it over to Linda. But here are the things we're going to talk about today. So hopefully we're able to touch on quite a bit here. It's going to be a lot of information coming your way, but we're always happy to stop, just get our attention if you need some additional information. And there's always time at the end of these presentations to engage there as well. So at this point, I'm going to get one more slide, and then I'm going to turn it over to Linda. But as you know, Tempe is known for its special events. Whether local or national, they're really here to drive that culture and celebrate that community spirit that we're all fortunate to live in and day out. But beyond that community spirit, beyond that culture, we also know that there is an opportunity to strengthen relationships. And with that, with our existing community members, visitors, even tourists of Tempe. And in all of that, too, there drives an economic stimulus to our economy as we strengthen those relationships with other businesses, charities, and other downtown merchants and other community merchants located throughout the city.
All right, so just a brief synopsis of the festival and events permit process. Our applicants or event producers apply to become an event. We work as a special events task force to review every application that comes in. We look at it for public safety perspective, impact to neighborhoods, impact to streets, and then we evaluate, and eventually they go to the special events task force committee for formal approval. Our 2023 year in review, we received 207 applications. However, that's a consolidated amount. We went electronic in 2021, so we used to have over 300. They've been consolidated into over 207. We have events on 615 days a year, which of course means that we have events overlapping. At those events, we get approximately over 600,000 in attendance. And our primary event venues are Kiwanis Park at 53, Downtown Tempe, 36, the Rio Salado Parks, which includes Arts Park, Tempe Beach Park, Giuliano Park, and the North Tempe Town Lake. We have 32, the Tempe Community Center Complex, which is the library complex, 13, and Diablo Stadium has 6. We have events, however, all over the city. Those are just our main venues.
For the, excuse me, for the Diablo Stadium, is the 6, that doesn't include spring training though, right?
Correct. It's usually, yeah, they're parking lot events usually.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clarification.
And just a point of clarification, Vice Mayor, Diablo Stadium also supports the illumination event, which is the entire month of basically December and January. So while it's one event, we're talking multiple days in which they're hosting that event as well.
Good point. Thank you for making that.
Okay, we have multiple agreements. We have both MOUs and actual written contracts The written contracts generally include either sponsorship funds, monetary sponsorship funds, in-kind city services, and those are the Rock and Roll Arizona Now Half Marathon and 10K, Ironman Arizona, the Kiwanis Club July 4th celebration, Innings and Extra Innings Festival. And then we have an MOU with our partners at the Downtown Tempe Authority for the Festival of Lights Street Parade, Festival of Lights Boat Parade, Second Sunday, and other community events, with the total estimated economic impact of $16 million.
So at this time, I would like to bring up Lori Foster, President and CEO of the DTA, really to just go over the Downtown Tempe Authority and the foundation and how those two organizations support our events in the downtown.
Before we bring up Lori, can you clarify something for me? Linda, you said there were, in the first slide, there were 207 applications approved. And then you said that there were over, how many actually were received?
I'm not sure I can give you that estimate. It would be well over, it would be close to 300 received. Some get declined because either there's not room for them
Fine.
or,
Yeah,
right,
there are reasons for
Correct.
declining.
yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Welcome, Lori. You want me to navigate or do you want to navigate?
Sure.
All right.
Let's tag team it. Yeah. Hi, and good afternoon, Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember Chin. Lori Foster with Downtown Tempe Authority, and we're the Business Improvement District for downtown. I wanted to share a little bit about who we are and what we do in terms of events. Basically, we work to bring feet to the street to support the businesses and the stakeholders downtown. And I thought I'd outline a little bit about who we are, because we're actually two separate entities, each producing various events for various reasons. So first we have Downtown Tempe Authority. It's our 501c6. Our mission is to act as a vehicle to positively impact and drive the future of our city's urban center and to be a steward of the existing assets and resources. We want downtown to be youthful in spirit, embrace growth, innovation, wise in practice, and protecting our character and history. Our sister, I guess you could say, sister organization is the Downtown Tempe Foundation, a 501c3 charitable organization. And the foundation exists primarily to curate diverse and impactful experiences that cultivate community engagement. And the vision of the foundation is the events and experiences will create a sense of belonging by combining the best of what we've done with the best of what's to come. So these are a couple of the events that Downtown Tempe Authority produces. And the events that Downtown Tempe Authority produces are more geared toward merchant support and economic development, specifically for the stakeholders downtown. Those events include Second Sundays on Mill, the Halloween Stroll, a new event this year, Tempe Blooms, a Mountain Challenge, and then we also have the menorah lighting that's under Downtown Tempe Authority. The foundation produces the signature community, longstanding community events, all about arts and culture and great experiences. So the two Tempe Festival of the Arts, the Fantasy of Lights opening night parade and tree lighting ceremony in December, the boat parade in December, and just coming up next month, the Pride Party on June 1st and Juneteenth Block Party on June 15th. So we know that events bring people downtown. Our role in producing events is a tactic to bring people downtown. And why does it matter? Well, we work, this is a rough estimate, but close to 500,000 people come downtown during our events. And we count the people that are in the, for this figure, the number in the entire district. So from the lake,
It's 500,000 people, right?
yes.
Okay, I thought you said 5,000, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's all
It
right. I
is
just-
500,000, I
okay.
just can't read.
No, it's all good. I just wanted the people that
Yes.
might be watching to understand.
Correct. Thank
Because that's
you
a
so
big
much.
difference. And 500,000,
Slightly.
by the way, is awesome. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Laura.
So we bring a lot of people downtown to the downtown district. Events bring exposure and sales revenue to the downtown merchants. Anytime there's an event downtown, depending on the event, time of year, merchants can expect anywhere between a 15 to 40% increase in their revenue. So they're really important economically. Events brand downtown Tempe as a vibrant, energetic destination on the move. And also, a healthy, vibrant downtown is an indicator of the economic condition of the entire city. So we know that's important, and we want to keep this an exciting place to be. Events are also a business attraction. Many events want to come and be in an environment where there are things happening and where people are investing their time and money to create great experiences. Events also create a sense of place and pride for the community, and events are a great opportunity for all of us to be welcoming and inclusive to the community. There's an economic impact number there for all of our events, and I'm going to put a little caveat on this. This is an estimate because we're in the process right now working with a lot of our partners, with Michael, trying to decide the best calculator on estimating the economic impact of our events. Because most of our events are local, regional, there's not people spending the night. So we're still trying to work on exactly how we quantify that. Using an Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 calculator and our average event attendance, our events we're estimating right now, don't hold me to it, is between $16 and $19 million. Subject to change. And how do we do it? Well, we can't do anything alone. We have a lot of partnerships that we're really grateful for. First of all, with the City of Tempe, on the DTA event side, we have event support with the MOU and financially with Second Sundays, Tempe Blooms, the Pride Celebration, and Juneteenth. And that support includes equipment rental, security, programming, entertainment, and assistance with fees, permits, and services. On the foundation side, the cultural signature community events, Tempe Festival of the Arts, the Boat Parade, the Street Parade, as Sean and Linda mentioned earlier, we have assistance with fees, permits, and services as well. So we get asked all the time, why don't you guys do this? Or why can't we do this? And we're like, yes to all of it, except we'd go broke. And so we have put in place something that, a screening tool for us that helps us really align what we're doing with our mission for both Downtown Tempe Authority and the foundation. And we call it POSTER, and it really begins with the people. So we take a look at, if we're going to produce a new event or get rid of an event or change an event, it begins with the people. We take a look and see who is here downtown, or in a lot of cases, who is missing? What do we need to do to bring people into downtown? And then we think about what our objective is. What do we want to do? Do we want to bring more people downtown? Do we want to increase sales? Do we want to celebrate a cultural holiday? What specifically is it that we want to do? And what's our strategy? Are we going to close the street? Are we going to do something in the park? Are we going to do something inside the businesses? And then what's the tactic? Is it a parade? Is it a festival? Is it a market? What specifically are we going to do to meet that strategy, to hit those objectives and bring those people downtown? And then finally, we figure out what our KPIs are. How do we know we're successful? And how do we know that we've met our goals and our objectives?
Can you explain KPIs? What that stands for?
Yeah, well, I blank. KPI is just your goal.
It's a key performance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the clarification.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but just so people know.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so an example of a KPI is, like, for example, Second Sundays. What is a successful Second Sundays? Is it 30,000 people on a Sunday in 3 hours, or is it 3,500 people? Is it families? It's like, who is it that we're looking to bring down? Is it an increase in merchant sales or parking numbers, or what is it? Those are the KPIs that we're checking. Sorry. All right.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
And so as Michael comes up, I'd just like to point out, right, like the city, the DTA is heavily focused on those data, those metrics, tying things back to deliverables to the communities. I think you're also going to see this further exemplified here too with Michael and his approach, but we're going to be able to dive a little bit more into the economics of special events here and for the rest of the presentation.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for the opportunity to participate today. So Michael Martin, President and CEO for the Tempe Tourism Office. Go ahead. So in terms of special events and tourism, obviously special events play a vital role in what we do. We are not an event producer. We do not produce events. We only market and promote the events. Several years ago, many, many years ago, we started the Fantasy of Lights, and that's now thankfully planned by DTA. But it's a lot of effort, a lot of work, and we recognize that. So our contribution to overall special events is to market and promote it through our tactics. So obviously we want to see impact of out-of-town visitors. Selfishly, we want to see people come come in and stay in hotels, eat at the restaurants and shops. We want to produce room nights for our hotels. We were looking for need periods. Need period would be weekends. It could be Thanksgiving weekend. It could be the month of December. The whole month of December is a need period. Anytime when there is a dip, a natural dip in demand for hotel rooms for travel because of, maybe families aren't traveling at that time or business, whatever it might be. So need periods are very important to us. Memorial Day weekend is a great example of a need period. Weekend business is important. The travel patterns have really changed post-COVID because of hybrid work. So it used to be that the weekend was super busy with leisure and then midweek. So now it's kind of reversed. It's kind of ebbs and flows with our hotels. So weekend business is still really critical because when that business traveler ends on Thursday, we want to see business pick up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It also provides opportunity for citywide potential. So for example, if we have Ironman in town, it's not going to impact just one hotel, but it impacts several hotels. And the key here is even if it only impacts downtown Tempe, it can impact the whole city because it creates compression. Anytime we have a lot of room nights consolidated in one space, the normal business that would come to that area normally will then push out to the next ring, if you will. So it does have potential to create that compression. The hotels love these events because it's an annual source of business. They know next year at a certain time frame, that weekend's going to be full. They can count on it so they can focus their attention on other weekends of the year. So it's a great source of business, annual business for our hotels. Obviously, increases additional spending for local businesses to keep them up and running and moving. And local access. What I mean by that is local residents get to take advantage of things that they may not be able to take advantage of unless they travel to another city, another state. So it's great to have these events in our own community so they can take advantage of it for their own quality of life. So we have two tools that we use to measure the impacts. One is Smith Travel Research. I receive monthly and weekly hotel data. And then the other is our economic impact calculators. Our umbrella organization is called Destinations International. It's an organization that has membership throughout the world for tourism offices. They produce a program called the Economic Impact Calculators. And many, many years ago, this didn't exist, and all of our communities nationwide were just applying a formula of an impact of an event, and it was just completely different across the board. What they did is they created this subscription-based program where they input all the data in the back end, the algorithms in this back end tool, and then we input things that are specific to our community, like our average daily rate. And then we enter the information and it kicks out the impacts. So we have 3 different subscriptions that we apply for, that we do every year. One is for meetings and events or conferences. One is for amateur sports. And one is for special events and festivals, and that's specifically what we're talking about today. So this is a snapshot of our Smith Travel Research. So as I mentioned, on a weekly and a monthly basis, I receive data from Smith Travel. And our KPIs, or the ones that we track, our occupancy, average daily rate, revenue per available room, and so forth. You can see them listed there with the arrows. Why is this important? This gives us an indication of what happens year over year in our hotel community. And I specifically picked Extra Innings Festival because if you look on the left, the dates are April 29th, March 1st, and 2nd. And you can see that this year, for example, our occupancy was 89.4% on that Thursday, 91% on the 1st of March, and 89% on the 2nd. You look at the previous year, it was actually an 11% increase year over year, 19% increase, and 17% increase just in occupancy. So this data allows us to look at that particular day and say, what happened? Why did we see such an increase? Well, in this particular case, the only anomaly for that weekend was the Extra Innings Festival. So we can easily say that Extra Innings created that boost in our economy. The number I really want you to pay attention to are the 2 bottom ones. One's total rooms sold in market. So we were up, if you just look at the pure numbers, 1,300 rooms per night for those 3 nights. And then revenue, total revenue for the hotels, up 300,000 on the first night, 500,000 the second night, and 400,000 the third night. So that just tells you the pure impact in terms of revenue to our hotels just because of that one event coming into our community. Yes.
Where did you see the 500,000? I'm just missing it.
So if you look at revenue on the bottom left,
Okay.
and you see April 29th, it shows 1.3 million this year, and then 1 million last year. So that was an increase of about 300,000.
Okay.
So the March 1st is about $500,000 increase year over year.
I understand now. This is incredible. I mean, this entire chart has all gone up.
Yes, and
You know,
that's,
I mean,
that's what you want to see.
You have the meat and potatoes here to prove that
Yes.
we're going in the right direction.
Right.
So I love the stats, and I mean, proof is in the pudding.
Yeah,
So
and
thank
this is
you.
actually a very large spreadsheet that shows the full month. This is only a snapshot of that spreadsheet. There's a lot of numbers there. And the thing I also want to point out is what you want to see next year, assuming we have Extra Innings Festival next year the same weekend, what you want to see next year is flat, because this year is the anomaly. Next year is not going to be an anomaly. It's going to be normalized. So what we want to see is flat numbers in next year. We don't want to see a dip. And if we start seeing those dips, that's when we can say, well, wait a minute, maybe this event isn't drawing as much tourists as we thought it would. And that typically might happen over the course of 4 or 5 years that we can track. But so next year, you'll not see, if we see this anomaly next year, then that's gonna be great, because that means more people came for the event, so.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Adams, to
Yes.
kind of, to your point about the data, right? So in total, there was $1.3 million additional revenue just on those 3 days.
Wow.
Right? So, and when you take that into consideration, what does that mean for the city, right? As a city, we're supporting this event. We've recognized that, hey, it's a contracted event. We're going to help support this by providing those city services at no charge to the event promoter. Just in lodging only, when you consider bed tax and sales tax, it's over $88,000 that came in. That doesn't include other factors we're going to go into a little later on: retail, shopping, recreation, transportation, a lot of other industries Michael's going to get at. But just for that alone, $88,000 came back into the city's tax revenue base from that $1.3 million of data.
Thanks for drilling down on that, because I think that's really important that our residents know, because I know we get complaints about special events, traffic and all that, but it is helping our tax base and helping our city stay solid. So thank you. I like that drilling down. I love statistics. So
We
this
got
is
more
great.
coming. You're going to love the rest of
All
this
right, good.
presentation.
One of my favorite classes I ever took in college.
So this is the second tool that I was mentioning, our special events economic impact calculator. So as I mentioned, we put information on the back end and it spits out a economic impact estimate. This happens to be for Ironman Arizona in 2023. And basically, if you look to the right, this is like a 2-page document. So this is just a snapshot. So direct business sales, so direct impact was 1.5 million, but overall total business sales was 2.9 million. Now this is interesting. The reason I'm showing this is because if you look at the previous year, it was slightly higher. Well, Ironman was down in total participants this year. So this shows a clear drop in economic impact. It's still very positive, don't get me wrong, $3 million is very good. But it also tells us, go back to Ironman and say, hey, what do we need to do to try to get back to that 4,000 participants or whatever that number is. This also shows a breakdown in terms of an estimate on total local taxes, and that is across the board: sales tax, bed tax, state sales tax, and Maricopa County taxes. And then it also shows you estimated total room nights demand, so 3,100 room nights consumed. This is rather conservative, I think, because a lot of times, whenever Ironman comes into town, they might have people staying, unfortunately, like in Airbnbs. That's still going to impact our bottom line, not necessarily hotels, but most of it is in our hotels, which is what we want. That's why the room nights may be slightly lower, but we're probably seeing higher numbers in Tempe when you account for Airbnbs.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any questions? Good.
All right. So I'll be taking us home from here. But what I want to talk about, over the next few slides, we're going to talk about a national focus and a local focus when it comes to our festivals and events. And so just here, there's going to see a difference between a community awareness, right, which is a national focus, and then later on, I'm going to talk about community identity, which is more of a local focus. So with community awareness, as you would think, tourism, right? So, but what does tourism do? Yes, it brings heads and beds, and we get some revenue in here, but there's also other impacts or other benefits that brings, both from an economic and a community development exposure. We have folks that come here for an event or an activity, and they may decide to move here because they like the vibe, they like what we've got going on here in Tempe. We've got businesses. In fact, earlier this week, our economic development director reached out to us and says, hey, tell me about what we do in community services, because we've got a business that's thinking about moving to Tempe, right? So they want this data because they, as a business, you want to know what's in that community for your employees and their families. And that's where special events, as well as parks and recreation and all the other city services come into play with that. And as I mentioned a little earlier, there's some significant spending areas. So from a national focus, Michael just did a tremendous job of explaining the lodging piece. But as Lori mentioned, right, there are also local other benefits as well when we talk about food and beverage. Folks take part in our restaurants. We got some wonderful restaurants here in Tempe, and bars and gathering spots for folks to come and hang out and just enjoy good company. Recreation. When we think about recreation, it's not what I go to. It's not taking a class or a program or a swim lesson. Recreation, in this case, we're talking about entrance fees, entertainment fees, people taking a show at the Arts Center, some of these different things. Those are some ancillary benefits of hosting these events. Retail. One of my wife's favorites. A lot of support thrown this way through shopping, gifts, souvenirs, those types of things folks spend their money on while they're here. And then lastly here, the last significant area, while there are others, is transportation. This is rental cars. This is gas that you need for those rental cars, rideshare programs, Uber, Lyft, all those types of things. All those bring in revenue to our city. So just to show that again, we've got another example here of a contracted event. We've got some really good details here. Just want to, this information comes from that Smith Travel report Michael just had talked about, but this is for Rock and Roll. And as you can see, it's broken down by those major industries or sectors we had just talked about. But the estimated total direct tax revenue to the city is over $200,000 from the Rock and Roll Arizona. Right, it brings in a $4.2 million economic impact. So that's just holistic on all these different industries: lodging, transportation, food, retail, and so on. But when you look at that direct tax back to the city, which helps then to go out and fund city services, right, we have $212. Now, granted, the city makes an investment. We pay about a little over $100,000, right, from city services and different things like that to support that event. But that's still a net gain of over $100,000, which goes back into our city coffers moving forward. So local focus. Want to come out of the gate. Are there frustrations with events? Of course there are. We've heard them. We've all been around the table. We've helped to address those. We talk with our residents. We involve them in trying to come to solutions. And some of these right, are genuine, right? The street's closed. The park access is limited. Bike paths. Right, there's restricted access or closure. But what I'd like to just bring to your attention is when we just zoom out from the event itself and look holistically, well, how often does that happen during a year? On a majority of these things, it's less than 10%. It's about 30 days total a year that a lot of these things are restricted or they're closed. And I'll say if there's a bike lane closure or a road that you can't get through, we work with transportation and our team over there to provide alternate routes around it. We also do a very good job of communicating out in front of it and getting out information to the public, especially in the impacted area, working with our neighborhood services team. As Linda mentioned earlier, they're part of that special event task force. So we really do, as a team, try to get out in front of this and work through some of those frustrations. That being said, there's a lot of benefits that come with special events. Earlier on, we talked about positive community identity, right? This is that social fabric, that social glue that we talk about in here in Tempe, right? This is what brings people together. And it goes well beyond just the event itself. We talk about great impacts on quality of life, community pride. I don't know about you, but when I visit other areas, I wear my Tempe gear, especially in my new Parks and Rec shirt. But I love that shirt. But anyway, I wear that gear. I'm proud of where I come from. Right? Tempe's my home. It's where I'm choosing to raise my family, and I'm proud of that. And I know there are others that feel the same. Social capital. This brings folks together to be able to network, right? You see a friend, whether they're from high school or they're your neighbor, you get a chance to connect just outside of the normal daily grind. And special events provide us that opportunity, that escape for a lot of our community. And then, there are also, like we talked about before, there's the food and beverage benefits, there's the recreation, the tourism, and tourism in this case, let me back up, not a huge factor for local events, right? We're talking about events, usually you're attracting folks within 50 miles, maybe a little bit more, but lodging's not really a significant component. But there are other areas, and a new and interesting one is one that they call retained economic impact. And what this boils down to is if your residents aren't in Tempe spending their money, if our fellow residents aren't here spending money, odds are they're somewhere else that weekend. So do we want that money to go to Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, I agree. We want that to be retained in Tempe, and that's where events like Second Sunday, these local events that celebrate that culture, that spirit, that identity, we're retaining that economic impact in Tempe, again, helping to build our city tax base, which contribute to supporting all of these different city services that we provide throughout the year. In addition, we've got some other benefits here, and I'm going to give some props to Keith Burke. He came up with a simple question. How many miles collectively with those health and wellness events are put in on an annual basis? We have just around 60 events mainly between Tempe Town Lake and Kiwanis Park. Right? We've got over 60 events or right around there that support physical fitness, physical health. There are over 250,000 miles walked, ran, biked, or swam, and that's just from the event day itself, right? That's the participation in those. That doesn't include, and I've done a half Ironman, all the time, all the months, potentially even years spent ahead of that for your training runs, your training rides, your training swims. There's quite a bit that goes on there from a health and wellness standpoint. Another one that sometimes folks aren't aware of is this charitable support and volunteerism that events provide. So just on the face value, we've got events here in Tempe such as Pat's Run, right? We've got a host of different events like that provide an opportunity for you to support a nonprofit. The Breast Cancer Walk, Making Strides, Say Yes Day to Autism, Oktoberfest, right? We've got a ton of events. July 4th, right? Supports the Kiwanis Club. We've got a ton of events that just provide that support and opportunity for volunteerism. But in addition to that, if an event chooses to have a liquor license, a special event liquor license, they must partner with one of the requirements is a nonprofit, civic organization, so on and so forth. And this is done by the state, that they have to be the sponsor of that license, so to speak, right? So in that, we have, give me one moment. We have a few events that I know partner directly with Tempe, directly, Sister Cities and Oktoberfest, for example, right? Kiwanis Club, the 4th of July, and even Innings Festival works with the Diablos, right? 25% of the gross income that comes in from those liquor sales is mandated by the state to go back to that charity. So again, another opportunity, and again, this is a second level benefit in that all of those charitable organizations give directly back to Tempe, whether that's scholarships with Sister Cities and visiting other communities around the world, or just staying at home. Kiwanis Club has helped out with park improvements and so on. And the Tempe Diablos are great about supporting our youth programs throughout the year through grants and scholarships as well. So then lastly, I just want to bring it to you, as I've been saying, I'm going to say it one more time. These tax revenues support city services, right? This tax revenue that comes back into the city is then in this pool of money in Tom's coffers, at least for the next couple of months, right? They're there for him and the rest of the city leadership to, how do we best use these? But they contribute to that tax base, which then in turn supports our city services that I know our residents enjoy, whether that's our Parks and Recreation Capital Improvement Plan, our public safety that goes on here in Tempe, and just Trees for Tempe, and different initiatives like that. That's where we, that's where these tax dollars do come back and make a difference within our community. So what's up next for special events? We've been working with the Strategic Management and Innovation Office to update our strategies for our performance measure. So with that, we're going to work with the DTA over the next year to just do a satisfaction survey with our local merchants in the downtown, just to talk through what do they see, what suggestions they may have, those types of things, as well as continuing our work with the Tempe Tourism Office and our financial services team to really try to better hone in and measure that economic impact, both from a local and a national perspective. What does that mean for Tempe? And then lastly, at the direction of the city manager's office, we're getting together to do just a strategic planning initiative, which is going to involve both city internal departments, as well as some of the folks sitting behind me, as well as the Tempe Chamber and things like that, so that we can really look at what types of events we're bringing to Tempe, because I think it was mentioned yesterday, we really want to focus on the events that are right for Tempe now. There was a time we were just recruiting, let's bring them in, let's get them here. Now we're in that situation of being able to say, what's Tempe? What fits our brand? What fits our vibe? And we've got a lot of talented folks around the table that are going to be working over that throughout the next year. And with that, any questions?
Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
I do. Just some comments mainly. First of all, that was a very thorough presentation. So I was very impressed with it. Like I said, I love the statistics. And I think that you guys have a great partnership between Tempe Tourism and Downtown Tempe Authority and the city. You all make a really, really good team, and it's nice because you work so well together, and that really makes a difference. And you're having huge impact. I mean, 16 million to 19 million dollars, in increased revenues. Those are huge numbers. And I know the events, I'm glad you explained that it's only 10% of the time for the events. And I'm glad you really clarified that, because that's 30 days of 16 to 19 million dollars being brought into the city. So it's important. And the 15 to 40% increase in revenue of the businesses, that when we do have events, that's how much it goes up. That was very informative. I think it's important that people know that. I'm a huge small business promoter, and that really promotes our downtown. And I want our downtown to thrive. And I'm excited about the downtown refresh. I think that will help too, and get more businesses in here and more restaurants. And really, you're doing everything you can to make it lively, and I love it. So keep up the good work with that. Also, we have the Arizona Theater Company now at TCA, Tempe Center for the Arts. I'm always trying to explain what all these alphabet soup mean. Anyway, and I think that will also have an impact on our hotel stays, because a lot of those folks come from a long way away. And so I'm optimistic about that. And maybe we can start tracking that when we do have the theater. I'm kind of looking at Keith right now, but when we do have ATC come in for shows, if we can track the hotel, if that increases during that, I think that's a really, it would be a good thing to measure. Keith, I'm glad you asked the question about the great question about the events and our effect on physical health and well-being. And so that's so important, that our residents feel like they're getting exercise and they're out and about, and there's things that they can participate, and it really builds the community. They get to know each other. That's a big deal for me. I think a lot of people just drive into their driveways and into their garage, and they really don't know their neighbors. But when you have these events that bring people together, you get to know your neighbors and you get to know your community. And that's a really important point for mental health also, and physical health. So, I mean, you are just knocking it out of the park, and I just really appreciate what you're doing, and it makes me happy. So thank you for the excellent presentation, all of you, everyone that came up. I see Linda's back there, and so everybody that came up and presented. It's a model. This is a model presentation for other presentations that we can have in the future.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams.
You bet. Thank you.
Wow.
Well done, team.
Wow, that was big. I hope others are paying attention and watching.
Good to have everyone in person too.
I do have a few comments, and I really appreciate, I know I requested this for a reason, and I'd like for us to have updates, perhaps a spring training update, perhaps after certain periodic presentations, so that people can see the economic impact that these temporary inconveniences brought, right? We all have our routines and our routes, but look at the return on investment that we have for our community. A few things. We've turned down nearly 100 other events. That's okay. I think now, as we are coming into our own in Tempe, and yes, we did talk about it last night a bit when Michael presented, what are the events that showcase who we are aspirationally? What is our community culture? Is it reflective of who's in our community? And are we celebrating the events that are inclusive of everyone? Let's look at that. I think all of these events bring together people, and the quality of life improves for all of us here. Absolutely, Sean, you brought up the nonprofits that benefit from many of these events, whether it's through a liquor license or that it's purely a nonprofit. For example, the Tempe Sister Cities Board, which funds educator and student travel to create citizen diplomats. The Tempe Diablos, they give out a lot of money to our teachers in the community and recognize excellent teachers in every one of our school districts, as well as support scholarships for students. That's what these events do. And so while we talk about what next and the excitement of having these events, let's not forget to include this in our conversation. That the numbers are important and we need to remind ourselves. So thank you so much for this today.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Councilmember Chin.
Thank you.
All right, that's the, let's see, we'll move ahead to item 4B. New items for consideration. 4B1, presentation proposals for future council committee meetings. Vice Mayor Adams, do you have any updates you'd like to see at the next SEV committee meeting?
Not necessarily at the next meeting, but I would like to have this events presentation twice a year, because I think it's very important to stress to the community and really just keep communicating what's happening and what we have going downtown and with our events. So that would be something that I would like to see happen.
Sure, and I think this is what you meant. I'm going to rephrase.
Okay.
It's not just downtown, right?
That's right.
The music, the Tempe Jams is another great event. Some
Yes.
of the others that we have are in South Tempe also.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification,
I knew
Councilmember.
what you meant.
She interprets for me.
Anything else?
Let's see, do I have anything else? No, I don't think I have anything else. Thank you.
All right, that's the last of our scheduled discussions today. So we'll move on to item 4C, announcements. Vice Mayor Adams, do you have any announcements today?
I don't have any announcements today.
Then I will move on. I don't have any announcements. Our next council committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 17th. Thank you all for being here today, both virtually and in person. And with that, we are adjourned at 2:08 p.m.